Thanks for tuning in to Raising Bosses. I'm your host, Shauna J. Ray. Here on this podcast, we discuss changing our mindsets, growing a business while raising a family. If that's what you're interested in or currently doing, please stay tuned for what we have ahead. Thanks for joining us, guys, today on Raising Bosses. It's Shauna J. Ray, and today I am in the studio at Ant Farm with Anthony Hight.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for having me. I hope you guys can hear the difference. I am in a professional studio, and I feel so cool and official right now. It's amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, we're happy to have you. Is this episode 16 or something?
14, I believe. 15, yeah.
Okay.
It should be 16, but I'm also, I haven't re-recorded that one episode.
Oh, I see. No problem.
But yeah, so I'm going to get that going too. But yeah, this is episode 15. Wow. So thank you so much, Anthony, for letting me come into your studio today and have this interview with you, because this is your studio, correct?
It is, yeah.
That is so awesome.
It is pretty cool.
This is my first time talking to somebody with a brick and mortar.
Yeah, well, it's been about 7 months in a brick and mortar.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, and a lot of this is no small part to Josh, the producer back there.
I love it.
On the board, yeah, he did a lot of this, most of it.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was started off with my vision, but it was he helped a lot. So I have to thank him for
I
a
love
lot of
it.
that. Thanks, Josh.
I love it. Also me. Awesome. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself, Anthony, just to get my listeners, your background and everything?
So I'm a video producer. I guess to start off, since about 2011, I've been a video producer, video editor. Worked for different companies and didn't really like the way that the culture at a lot of the companies was. So I was like, I need to start my own company, make my own culture and do something I can be proud of, because I saw we were pitching ideas to a lot of our clients, and I don't know, we would really nickel and dime them. I just didn't feel comfortable. And then I didn't believe in the product either. So then I couldn't sell the product.
A big one.
It is, you got to believe. So really about me is I've been sober for almost 6 years. And because of the sobriety, so I was a big pill head, alcoholic and everything. And from the sobriety, I realized when I was using and drinking a lot, I said, if I put this energy towards becoming successful or starting a business, then I could really do something with my life instead of being in the same bar or waiting in a CVS parking lot for my drug dealer to show up, and put that energy towards something productive. So I did, and so I got sober, and through AA.
Powerful.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. So then I was like, I just got super motivated, and it was cool because like AA is like the same way as like self-help books. So you hear all these books, and it's like, do the next right thing, or clean your side of the street, or it's very everything translated to building a business and working with clients. And so it but as a result of that, I do have I consider myself high functioning anxiety, so I'm always like but it helps towards the business. I put it towards the business, put it towards action and getting things done, because I can't sit still. So yeah, and then I started Ant Farm Media 2015. 2 years after I got sober, and we're in 2020 now. Finally have a brick and mortar in 2019. We were in California.
No time.
No, well, it's hard. I mean, it's hard, and you don't want to waste time, and you're kind of in a hurry. I felt like I wasted a lot of time in my life. Like,
I've been there.
Diminishing my potential and putting my effort towards the wrong things, my energy towards the wrong things, and so yeah. So now here I am. So
that is like one of the most powerful stories I've heard yet, because a lot of people don't realize how much, it's nothing wrong with, having going clubbing, bars, whatever. But at the time when you realize, you're like, okay, this is all my life consists of. And you took it and you were like, no, I could be better. Yeah. And like a lot of people don't understand that. And it's like, it's not always even things like, drugs or anything. It could be anything that you're putting the wrong energy to.
Right.
And it's so beautiful to see somebody actually flip it. You know what I mean? And then waste no time.
Yeah.
Absolutely no time. And tomorrow I'm going to do this. And
it felt right. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's funny. And I also like to bring up, you say you like anxiety or high energy. Were you like that as a child?
I think about it and I wonder how I was. I was very outgoing. I was like, I wanted to be in the spotlight. I was a big Jim Carrey fan, so I was always quoting Jim Carrey and dancing around like Cuban Pete from The Mask, and so I was out there, and I think the drugs really contributed to my anxiety now, because I think like it just twisted a few wires up there.
It happens, but
yeah,
you went past it and worked with it. The reason I asked it is because a lot of people, they have active children, outgoing children, and they want to suppress it. They want to tell them, or they give them the complex of that needs to be suppressed, that's not proper, instead of trying to figure out, well, what can we put this energy to? And it's like, even as an adult, it doesn't matter if you were a child, but even as an adult, we think we have to medicate it or we have to suppress it in these ways, and you turned it into something that made you like have all of this thing that you can actually build with and leave for your kids and things like that. And it's like, it's beautiful to see that. And I just want to like press on that for people.
Yeah.
I like to always press on that, like find where you can put your energy.
Right.
Regardless.
Yeah. I mean, I think with anxiety, healthy living, there's diet and exercise. Exercise was huge for me.
Oh, yeah.
Starting going to the gym, that really helped a lot. I mean, it's still there, but when I first got sober, I would go into Publix and I would have like a panic attack and run out of the store. Like that's how bad it was. And now, but every day I would leave little Post-it notes in my house, say, you're getting better, which sounds really cheesy, but I was like, I am getting better, reminders. Little reminders.
You need those little reminders, even if it's on your phone. I see people do it on their phone a lot. Actually, Post-it notes was a big thing for me at one of my jobs, and I started doing that too.
That's nice.
Leave those notes.
It's helpful, yeah.
It is.
Because you forget sometimes, and because the world's overwhelming in many ways.
Exactly, and I think that's a lot to do with it too, because panic attacks, anxiety attacks are nothing to like laugh at, nothing to be
I
like,
laugh at it.
now.
I think it's funny, and I mean, I don't. Because I don't want to give it to. I'm just like, hey, that's who I am, Hey, I'm crazy, because otherwise, because that's the old me was secrets, secrets, and now it's like, here I am, I'm crazy, but I make it happen, and it works out because secrets kind of just fuel. It's kind of a trigger for me, I guess, because I hid everything and hid pills and have girlfriends, and they didn't know I was doing drugs, and snort some in the car and then come inside like, hey, everything's fine, and now it's like I try and be the antithesis. It's like there was a Seinfeld episode where George realized, are you a Seinfeld fan?
Go on.
Okay, so George realizes his whole life he's done everything and everything's gone wrong for him, so he's like, I'm gonna do everything completely different from how I was doing it. So he goes up to a lady
like
at the
yes
bar
man situation. Yeah,
exactly. But he does, so he's like, what would I normally do? I wouldn't talk to this lady, I would do this. So he ends up talking to this lady, and he's like, I'm 43 years old and I live with my mother in her basement or something, and she's like, let's get a drink or something, and it turns out, so he does everything the opposite, and it makes his whole life better. So I try and do that. I try and be like, what would old Anthony do? Okay, let's do the opposite of that.
Have you seen Yes Man?
I have, the Jim Carrey movie, right? Yeah. I saw once. It wasn't my favorite, but I liked it.
The base behind it is exactly that.
Yeah.
And the end of the story where I forget what the guy's name is, when he tells him, he's like, it's not about saying yes to everything, it's about stepping out of your comfort zone and learning, like, okay, let's try new things
to grow.
And to grow, exactly. And it's like, after I saw that movie, that's exactly what I did. And I love Seinfeld, and I know what episode you're talking about, but I love that because it's true. We see things, I was telling Josh when I was here last time, like, my husband is the person that is outgoing and like off, like, to begin with. I'm outgoing too, but just
you both are outgoing.
Yeah, but he can, hey, why not, and just talk to people, and it's like, I've never been able to do that. And so like, I've been pushing myself in that way because it's like, well, I didn't get anywhere before.
Yeah, right. So now
it's like,
change, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have to grow and things like that. And it's like, we don't realize we have to step out our comfort zone. A lot of people go, oh, I don't want to do that because, it's uncomfortable, or, oh, I don't want to have to put all these things up, or there's people out there that want exactly what you have, or different, start a media company, period. And it's like, you have to step out your comfort zone. What are you doing that you should be doing differently or can, grow with? And it's like, that's one of the things that I always try to tell people big, because you would still be in the same spot just like you were for so many years. We all have been there. That was the reason why I even started everything, because I got tired of people saying certain things and me saying certain things, like,
yeah.
I'm never. can it grow?
Yeah, and that's what I used to say. Like, we'd sit at the bar and be like, oh man, we should make that into a skit, or we should do this, or this business idea. And like, eventually you're like, hey, we've been saying this for like 3 years now, or longer, you know? So when do you, and Josh and I talk about it all the time. I talk about it with a million people, where it's like, you know, actions define us, not what falls out of our face, right? Not what we say. Our actions are what define us. So we can say all day, like, yeah, I want to do this. Yeah. I'm like, well, show me, do it, you know, go ahead and do it then. Like, why wait?
That's actually a great segue to my next question.
Okay.
How did you get all this set up from starting your media company? How did you like prepare yourself? And I know you already were in the business.
Yeah.
But how did we build to all of this?
I got to give credit to my first production company I worked for. I mean, they taught me a lot. They threw me in. It was like baptism by fire. I had no idea. Like, I went to film school, and then I took a break because I was a drug addict. And then I went and finished it. And as I finished it, it was an internship at this production company in Cape Canaveral. And, you know, we're on talking terms. We're good and everything. But I just decided to separate myself from them eventually. And we moved to California with the family. So I kind of had no choice but to make Ant Farm Media full time. No preparation. We went right out to California in a saturated market, video production in California. That's like, they're hand in hand, you know, and the movie industry. And I was like, all right, let's fucking do this. Let's do it. Can we curse on this show?
Yeah.
Everybody always asks that, right? So yeah, I went out to California, just hit the ground running. I did editing jobs. I edited videos for people and got really good reviews and showed these reviews on my page. Slowly, I was shoot this camera right here. That was my first camera when I moved out to California. And then that very one, and the rest of them I bought just for this studio. But I went out there and I would show up on shoots with that little bitty Canon camera, and I'd be like, I'm ready to shoot. And it was like, you know, I just showed up there ready to go, and it worked out. Like, I happened to just fake it till I made it, you know. And a great TED Talk I heard once, the lady says, don't fake it till you make it, fake it till you become it. And I fucking love that. Like, I was like, yes, because that's what you're trying to do. You don't know what you're doing at first. And really you're just, you know, you're digging until you become that person you want to be. And to me, I was like, oh yes, that's what I'm doing. And so then I was able to buy a bigger camera and then better tripods and better, you know, audio equipment. And it was like little bits at a time, working from my home office. And then, you know, finally I was like, hey, let's open a studio.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's over 5 years, you know, this wasn't overnight. So It's important to remember, like, it takes time, patience. And one of my most, like, my biggest belief is to have like unfledgling positivity and belief that you're gonna do it. Just wake up and be like, I'm gonna be successful. Like, that's it. There's no other alternative. Like, you can't be like, oh fuck, is this gonna work?
Did you listen to a Tony Robbins before you got here?
I did not. No, I mean, I have over the years, and a bunch of people. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's a shared belief in the
Clearly
entrepreneurial.
You followed through.
I try, yeah, and I've always been positive. Even when I was a drug addict, I was like, oh fuck, you know, like, well, someday this will be over, or, you know, I always knew there was a light at the end of the tunnel.
That's beautiful. I like to, again, one of those things I like to just talk about is, like, you started with, you know, a $200 camera, and you built.
Well, it is $1,000.
Oh, okay.
It's a decent. It's okay.
But yes, exactly.
But it doesn't look too impressive when you bring it out.
You don't. A lot of people, they're like, oh, I don't have anything. It's like, do you have a phone?
Yeah.
Not saying you could start a media company, but you might be able to. Well, there might be some small parts.
It's work. I mean, you know, you do the work. You show up. You could. I mean, there's commercial shot on an iPhone. You know, it says that at the end.
There's a movie that was shot completely on an iPhone. I believe it.
Yeah.
And it was actually good because they just changed out the lens. They
out the
lens.
Oh, okay.
But that's my point. It's like, you didn't let that hold you back. You didn't say, oh, I just have, you know, this entry-level camera and I can't do anything. And a lot of people, that's one of those excuses that they use. It's like, you know, like, even if it's 5 years, I've been doing certain things, and like in 3, 4, 5 years, I still haven't gotten to what I would call something like, this is a huge accomplishment as big as this.
And,
you know what I mean?
And I'm the same way. I look forward. I see the guys in Orlando and LA, and they got the big studios. I mean, we're down there shooting a video today, and I'm like, we're climbing over shit, and we don't know, you know, like, how am I gonna, you know, I'm like, why isn't this bigger? Why can't we have more room down here? Because once you have all the equipment, and then little, you know, you're climbing over equipment. So, but yeah, I mean, there's no end, and especially in video production, any business really, there's always new gear to buy, new something. Everything's like, okay, now what do I need? Now, okay, well, I have to work till I get that. You know, I have to Get some more clients,
point.
Yeah.
That's a great point. You have to work. You can't just start. Even if you have all the nice stuff, I tell people, even if you had all of this when you started, like somebody just gave it to you and you didn't do anything with it.
If you didn't have the right attitude either.
Exactly. Yeah. So you still wouldn't be anywhere. And a lot of people are stuck in that, I need more before I start, but then you haven't even started. Yeah. So you're not, what are you going to do with it?
What a Silicon Valley phrase, one of the favorite ones, I think.
I lived in Silicon Valley.
The LinkedIn guys, I forget who said it. I think the creator of LinkedIn, or co-founder, he said, don't wait for it to be perfect to start, just start. And that's like the biggest thing. Like you can't wait because you got to push it out. And I think another guy in Silicon Valley said, if you're waiting till it to be perfect, then you've launched too late. Like if you're waiting for your product to be perfect, something like that. So
there's so many phrases around that one. There's so many, but
iterations of that same quote.
Yeah, and it's like, it's true, and people don't realize it's like all it is procrastination is nothing but an excuse to justify not doing something you're scared of. And it's like, if you never step out of your boundaries and you never go any further, you're never going to get anywhere. You can have everything. I always tell a story. I know I was boasting about my husband last time, but I also talk crap about
and this time too.
And I'm going to throw him in there one more time because it actually popped up today. Because today is Valentine's Day, right?
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
You better launch this episode.
Oh, yeah, right?
It's July.
No, this is coming out this week. But he bought me, years ago, I started a YouTube channel on like an old Mac computer I had for a job. And when I left that job, I lost the computer. So I kept saying, oh, when I get a camera, I just need a camera. Well, a couple of years ago, he bought me a camera. 4 years ago, actually, on Valentine's Day, he bought me a decent little camera. It was actually a very nice Samsung camera. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to start my channel. And I never started. A year later, it broke.
Oh, man.
I almost cried because I was like, he bought me a good camera because I complained this whole time. And I didn't. See, I'll get the microphone thing now. I was so stressed when he gave me the mic. I was like, oh, I got to do this one.
Yeah. Can't drop the ball twice.
Exactly.
It's execution, it's the execution on that idea.
Exactly.
Facing your fear.
You have to just start. And then one day, my sister was like, she's like, why aren't you doing this with me? When she started her YouTube channel up again. And I was like, I have to just start. I started with my iPhone 5. Like, what is that? Like,
like 6 to 7 generations at least.
I started 2 years ago on an iPhone 5, but we're not going to talk about it. Okay. It was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever. But yeah, exactly. And it's like, if you never start, even when I had the product or the thing that I said I needed, I still didn't start. And so I didn't get anywhere. And then here we are. Mm-hmm. Now I'm struggling to build up to that. You know what I mean?
You'll get there. I mean, it's a process for sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep that positive attitude.
You have to. You don't have a choice. Otherwise, what? You're going to go out there and just do something you don't love? I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's a choice, really. It's like this or, the kids don't get fed type thing.
Exactly.
It's like there's no choice. And I wake up, I firmly believe like God has my back. And I pray. I'm very thankful for the life I have now because gratitude, 100%. Like I was better at it in early sobriety, but if I, because then I would get down more. Wow. But still now, like if I feel down, like gratitude lists, think about what you're grateful for.
That's what I was literally going to ask you next. Like, so how do you, especially in any type of media, like you said earlier, it's so easy to kind of get caught up in being, what is it called when you're like, not envious, but you're like, dang, why don't I have that big studio yet? Mm-hmm. Why don't I? Yeah. And that goes for envious, yeah. How do you like, besides the gratitude list, are there other ways that you just counteract that feeling?
I was never competitive, but to me, it's like, it's kind of a competition. I do want to be better. I want to be the best. Like when I was working at a produce market, my boss said, no matter what you do, be the best at it. If you're drunk, puke in the gutter and roll around in it. You're drunk. Be the best drunk there is, And I've always been an extremist, and I've always dove headfirst into things and with everything. And now it's finally positive stuff. So, I mean, you see people growing, and I just, I'm supportive of a lot of people too. And that like we can all rise up together. This community has, depending, like video production companies, we don't work together too often, but some of us do. Some of us like rent gear from each other and stuff.
Good.
So there's plenty of work for everybody too, which is important to remember. Like there's plenty of work for everybody. Nobody's, somebody's got a client, like there's 100 more to get, so that's important to remember because I've never, like I was in California. You think everybody had a video guy. No, they didn't. Like I got some really big clients out there.
So what you're saying is Saturated market doesn't matter. That's actually going to be
It's a good thing.
It is a good thing. I want to talk about that because you hear a lot of people stop themselves, and I always use that phrase of when you go down the bread aisle, there's dozens of other bread, there's dozens of car brands, but nobody stopped themselves and said no, but we do that when we
enough with the bread, all right?
I'm not gonna
and then you got Dave's Killer Bread came out, with the organic bread or whatever.
Exactly, and it's like you put your own twist on it, you put your own thing, because not everybody's style is the same. Because like I'm just gonna throw Disney under the bus. I hate the way they direct freaking Star Wars now. I hate it. I'm just throwing that out there.
Do you like the last Star Wars?
I haven't seen the last one, but just in general, when it transitioned over, I don't care for it because the style is different, and I can see it. Also like
there's more special effects, but I'm not gonna derail this to talk about.
And now let's
more
get our
green
media
screen, There's less models, less miniatures and stuff being used, and so that removes creativity. George Lucas, and that was something they talked about in film school. I remember is George Lucas was on a shoestring budget. Or we didn't have what we had back then, and so he was there was matte paintings, there was creativity. How do we make this work? And this huge team at LucasArts, or I think it was LucasArts or whatever it was at the time, the iteration at the time. I mean, these guys were like, how do we make this work? And
I love that.
It's amazing. It's amazing to see them do it. I mean, they shoot these. If you see how-to videos online, you're just like, wow, that's crazy.
Oh, I do. I love.
And now it's like, you just need a good VFX, a visual effects artist, and green screen. And
it's true, but it's like he didn't stop himself. Disney also didn't stop themselves from taking it on and saying, well, we can't do this or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm getting at? Like everybody stops themselves and says, oh, everybody else is doing it already.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes I feel that way. I'm not gonna even lie. Sometimes I'm like, oh, everybody already did this video. Like, should I even bother?
Sure, I get it. Yeah. No, I do understand. I don't know how to piggyback on that. I mean, I feel the same way with certain things, and I always heard if you open up a company and there's other those, if there's a restaurant that opens up across the street from you, that's good. Like competition is good, and it's a chance to rise up and to separate yourself. And I mean, the produce place I worked at, it's called the Produce Place of Sun Tree. I worked there for half of my life. And when Fresh Market opened down the street, everybody's coming into my boss, are you guys worried? Are you worried?
The Whole Foods place, yeah.
Right, yeah. And so are you guys worried about this place? And he's like, no. I mean, we are who we are. This is what we do. And and they're a small family-owned business, been there for 25 years, and these places disappear. You got Earth Fair closing, all these places closing. This small mom and pop market is surviving. So
that's so good. Yeah, you hear about that a lot too. That's really good to point out too, because it's I never even thought about that. How do the little ones, when the big ones come in, when the Walmarts and the conglomerates come in, I never thought about that. That's actually really big. But some people want to keep their loyalties to the mom and pops, and also,
it's good. It was good to come from a small business background, because you see how important customer relations are, treating your customers like they're the only people, because that's everything. Without them, you fail. People stop coming in. There's bad word of mouth. The produce place has thousands and thousands of 5-star reviews. Nobody asked them for it. I didn't, nobody emailed them, hey, can you leave me a review? I have to email for reviews all the time, These guys are just hey, this place is amazing. You guys do great. It's fresh produce. You guys check the quality, You take that. And that was part of sales for me. I used to go and sell watermelon. Somebody's like, how's the watermelon? I could pick a watermelon I was the best watermelon picker there was, right? I go pick them out. If they weren't good, I'd say, watermelon shit. Don't worry about the watermelon. I can't sell this watermelon to you, but if the watermelon was good, I'd be like, oh my God, and I cut it, and you got to taste this. And that was the zeal I wanted to feel about my business. I wanted to be like, oh, you need a video? Let me talk to you about this video we can make for you, and that's the excitement I like to get behind.
Yeah, I see y'all are busy.
We're pretty busy,
y'all are busy. That is beautiful. I love seeing that. I was talking to Josh before you came back. It's y'all are busy. My sister is busy. I was supposed to do things. I love to see that. If you have a reason to do something and you're sitting there and you're pushing yourself out there, and obviously y'all are getting good word of mouth here because y'all are always doing something. It's freaking amazing. But it's it's true. When you have customers, I was reading that the other day. It's customer service is the first point. If you don't have good customer service, you could have everything.
Yeah.
The hugest 100%. Studio, everything. And if your customer service is shit, nobody's going to want to come.
And that's really only why people leave a review. It's you either have exemplary, yeah, excellent or the worst.
Crap.
Nobody's like, hey, I mean, there are 3 stars. You're like, what are you doing here? Like that really, you went on just for that for 3. Like I'm not that person. Like I'm like, hey,
it wasn't great, but
5.
it wasn't
I'm
terrible.
a 5 guy, or I don't review. Like I actually feel bad unless it's like really, really bad.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
how
review.
I am. That's
Because then I feel like it might come back to me. Somebody's like, hey, I saw you left me a bad review. Like, because people are crazy in this world, you know? Like, I don't trust people. So, like, you know, you give somebody a bad review and they turn it back to you someday. Like, I watch too many movies, too. So you think, like,
I'm on the same side as you. I feel the same way.
just 5-star review, or just go home. Go on with your life. Like, why leave a 3-star review?
Or the people that only leave terrible reviews. And
Right,
it's like,
yeah.
it's probably not that bad
Not
because
that
you're
bad,
the
yeah.
only one that's saying
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Like the other 100 5-star reviews. And
You're
like,
probably the problem.
I'm never coming here again. All right. You will be missed. Yeah.
Deuces. No,
See
that's
ya.
hilarious. Well, I have so when you set up everything, right? So now you have a brick and mortar, but you did say you moved. We also moved a lot. What were your challenges with having a business with your family, or were the babies? Yeah, you had your daughter already, right?
We have 2 girls. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The big one I meant. Yeah. So she was
Oh,
already. She's
yeah.
3,
We moved to
right?
California because of her. Because Tawny's parents, my wife's parents, were out in California.
Oh, beautiful.
And my brothers and sisters already had kids. My parents are out here. They're like inundated with grandchildren. So we're like, well,
We'll have help
Tawny's
here.
an only child, no grandchildren. Like we'll get very. And my parents are like, you gonna pay me to babysit? And you know, even though my mom was denying this, I'm like, Mom, I hear it all the time. I don't want to deal with that. I'd rather have. Tawny's parents are open. They're ready to like.
So that's
watch
where you
these
started
kids.
off with your help with the family and starting your business then.
So yeah, I mean, her parents were huge. Like, so what I did was we moved to California. We stayed with them for like a year. Her dad gave me his office to work out of. So he moved all his stuff to their bedroom. I had my own little desk. I mean, it was my computer and stuff, but then it was mine, and that helped me grow. And I gave myself 1 year. 1 year we're out of this house, and in 1 year we were out of the house. And we had our own place in Anaheim Hills, and it was like $1,600 a month. But you know, and there's months where it's like
That was cheaper than ours.
that's insane, you know, like because it's scary, you know, it's scary. So you have no choice. You have no choice but to work 18-hour days, you know.
And push and how did you face any challenges when you did move out and then come here and start your brick and mortar? What or if any?
I mean, here was a little easier. I mean, because I grew up here, so you knew we had people to stay with, and then. Everything's online. Everything I do is online. So much digital media. So finding clients is easy for me. I always said I can work anywhere. Like put me anywhere, I'll do it. I mean, unless it's like a small town in South Carolina, that would suck or something. But you know what I mean. Like a small town anywhere. It doesn't need to be South Carolina. Are you from South Carolina?
No.
Okay.
5 people in this town. Yeah, it's probably gonna be hard to work there.
Yeah, I mean, you want a place where there's larger business. I mean, honestly. 1% of our clientele are local. Like nobody is local. We don't use. I mean, we're just now that we have a brick and mortar. We're bringing more local in, but for the most part, it's all online lead generation.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Lead generation that from word of mouth and social media. Or do you?
I buy leads.
I
I buy people looking for videos,
Yeah.
and I pay like $30 a pop on them. I mean, you got to pay to play, you know. And some people go somebody else, and you lose that money. But eventually, you get one, and they're like, okay, yeah.
I didn't know that was in this
Oh,
part.
yeah.
I didn't know you could do that because I mean I've worked for marketing companies, so I understand buying leads. There's nothing wrong with that. I know people that make things to sell leads, so I get it. But I didn't even know. So that's a really good point to like talk. That's a really good thing to bring up. It's like if somebody's trying to start things in media, I didn't know that you could gather leads that way. Like I'm trying to find all the different ways to get
Thumbtack. Have you heard of Thumbtack?
No.
Thumbtack's a big one. Thumbtack's a really good one. Thumbtack for handyman, cleaning services, plumbers. Yeah, everyone. I would not be where I am today without Thumbtack. I can 100% say that.
I'm glad you told me that.
That's how I went out, and that's some good knowledge, people. That's some good stuff because really Thumbtack, and there's other ones. Look like Google. I don't know, Google whatever your business is and then lead generation but what they do is they spend all this money on marketing. People go to them, they search for these professionals. You have this little profile on Thumbtack showing your reviews. You can get reviews straight on Thumbtack and then pictures and description of your business, and people come looking for what you offer and you send them a quote, and you know, and I always like to get on the phone with people and so they can hear me, they can hear how enthused I am and how professional I am and how much I know the business, you know, and I know what, and that's a big thing too, is communicating your business and knowing like, hey, well, for that price, I can't give you what you want, or really to make it better, you're gonna need this. And then if you communicate those things, mostly they either, they'll come and spend more money most of the time. So you can kind of go in low and then be like, well, and they'll be like, hey, and you get on the phone with them and then you kind of explain like, well, you're gonna need to up your budget a little.
That is really, and it's like, I don't know if it's an anti-sales pitch, not even sales pitch, but like, it's true. Cause when I remember when my oldest daughter was going to daycare and I called like 5 daycares, and the last one I spoke to, I just loved the way she talked to me. I loved the way she was enthusiastic and she just seemed so, you know, wonderful. And then I got there and I was like, nope, it's a done deal. She's coming here.
Yeah.
And it's like, you have to kind of have that in your mind, like you said, because a lot of people are worried about, no, I need your money.
Yeah.
I need money,
sure.
and that's it. And then they lose the client. And regardless how you made them, how you found the client, regardless, like you lose your client that way. That's a really good point. Back to customer service.
Yeah, and I've gotten people to spend more money just because of my customer service, like my ability to talk and my reviews. Like the other day, somebody saw a review on my website that was like, oh, I saw that you really, you know, you take a project and you make it yours, and we really love that. And I was like, okay, awesome. And they're like, so we want to go with you. And I was like, okay, but we're going to need this and this and this. And I'm like, that's fine. And like, originally they're like, our budget's like $800. And I turned it into like $2,000 in like a matter of 5 minutes of just talking with them. It's like, okay, great. So, I mean, it's good reviews. It's knowing what you're doing, it's being passionate. And it's, I mean, that's, you know, it all works together, and then not giving up and then being positive. Yeah.
That part I didn't know. I'm so glad you know, that's good for everybody. I didn't know that there were lead generations out there, sites and things. Is that an app or it's just a site?
Both.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
okay.
You can do it for audio or podcasting. And,
really?
Yeah. I think so. Audio engineering.
I just found directories for podcasts and podcast guests. I just found.
Okay,
the other day.
I'm on that list too. Yeah.
Yeah, there was like
some
3
email.
or 4.
I'm sure there's a bunch, but yeah.
Yes, it was one. I think is podcast guest. It's the free one. You get the emails, but then there's like other ones where people can like search you and things like that.
You can be a guest. Right?
Yes,
yeah.
both. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's a really good idea. I didn't even think like why I didn't think that was a thing. And all these things are a thing. And I love to tell people like everything is a thing.
Yeah.
We don't realize.
2020. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It is, right? We have all these things. Just think it is and just type it in Google and 100%. See if it is.
No one has an excuse anymore.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
You don't. I mean, and I talk about this a lot, is that when I started at the other video production company, I knew nothing and they threw me in there and I Google University. Then I did web design for like 5 years. I was self-taught. I made web designs when I was a kid, you know, and then I went out to California. The first time I went out to California before I got sober, and I became an intern at a web design company for $10 an hour. They fired somebody and gave me her job, which I feel terrible about. I'm sorry, Phoebe. I was like, are you sure? Like, she had kids, you know, I was a single guy at the time. And they're like, yeah, well, we like your attitude, and we like, and you know, and you learn whatever we throw at you, you want to do. I'm not like, well, you know, I'm like, all right, let's do it. You know, so you had that fire inside. And one thing that's good, I don't know if I can segue to this, but make sure, like, no matter what you do, be somebody that people like working with. And they're not like, if you show up at a job and you're like, you know, you're complaining all the time, people are like, don't call that guy back. Like, he's always complaining. Like, be the guy that's like, hey, call Anthony. He's always, you know, ready to go for, even if it's bullshit work, you're like, all right, or you're at least fun, you're positive, and that's like a huge thing, is that, and that's what they told me at that web design jobs, like, your attitude fits our culture. And really, so you always want to have that attitude. So when people are like, I can't find a job, or it's
probably them.
It's you, 100%. It's you. Yeah, it's you.
It's always you.
It's not them. It's you. So
they're that 1%.
Change, just change. You know, change your personality, change your outlook.
Or exactly, your outlook. Because sometimes it's not even about changing, you know, your whole inside. It's just changing your outlook on the situation. Because sometimes we internalize things in a negative form or in the wrong way, and it makes us act out a certain way. But when we look at it, I forget where I read this, but you know, you'll see it in a lot of the like parenting books where it's like, well, you know, they're kids, they're gonna do crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Instead of sitting here getting mad at them. Yeah. Exactly. Remember to look at it as they're learning. We have to guide them from here to a positive situation.
They're experiencing all this for the first time. You know, it's the first time they're experiencing these emotions. So you have to be like aware of that.
Especially having toddlers. I know.
Yeah. Josh and I talk about that all the time. It's like, but that's easy enough to say, but you have to do it. Like you have to remember that when you're in the moment. Like, okay.
I need those Post-it notes.
Post-it notes. Yeah. They're learning.
They are okay.
They're getting better. Yeah.
That is literally me as well. So how do you, talking about the little ones, because I know she's really, really little, but you do have your wife, and I know you said you brought your
I have my wife. I bought her an auction. Just kidding. I don't know.
I'm sorry. No, but how do you include, like, I know she was here for the ribbon cutting and the whole family was here. Do you include her in any other ways? Did she help you in other ways get started with everything?
I mean, she's supportive. She knows I need to be 100% like, I'm like, hey, if I don't do this, we aren't successful. Like, so she makes sacrifices on the mothering side. Like
Beautiful.
You can stay home, be a stay-at-home mom, but you have to allow me what I need, like I have to go out and get shit done, so, and she knows how I am. She's like the opposite of me. She's very calm, she's very zen and peaceful, and I'm like, and
that's why you work.
And that's why we work. Yeah. I would never have thought we would marry each other. Like, we met years ago when I was still like, I met her drunk and on acid. So, and we just never hooked up, thankfully, because I would have ruined it. But then years later, when I got sober, we got together. So it's an interesting story.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So, but she grounds me, and we learn from each other. We're all learning how to behave and how to interact with each other and with the kids and being parents. Luckily, I mean, to me, I was ready. We were ready. We were ready for that part of our life and kind of just making these sacrifices, because we kind of talked about it when we first got together again. Like, hey, let's, we're going to make this work. We get in a fight. We're going to work through it. We're not going to just say, see you later. Like, this is going to be the relationship
Energy
that
all
sticks.
2020. I love it.
Yeah. So
yes.
It was pretty awesome. And she's 100% on board with everything. I mean, she doesn't really physically do much for me other than just support. And she, which is everything. Yeah, which is everything. And keeping the kids because I worked from home for years. So, she had to, which was awesome. Yeah. Because I got to watch the kids grow and be with them. Now it's weird that I'm not, but I'm like, this is the only way to scale. Like, if I want to scale, I need an office and I need to,
especially with media.
Yeah, with the video, and now we get walk-ins, we walk-in editing jobs and all this things we wouldn't get, and people that contact us just because we have an office. Like, you're not gonna, used to look up my business and it was in the mailman Joey's, because I had the mailbox, because you could buy a mailbox and it looked like you have a physical location somewhere, but I didn't. It was just for show. So now, instead of looking like I'm in the Publix Plaza, which Google Business doesn't like. Now we're at an actual office. So
that's a good, I never even thought about that, because now that I'm scared of brick and mortar, I want to have the flexibility of not having, unless it's like in my house, like one of those situations where maybe like, whatever. But I always I don't want a brick and mortar, because then I have to be there.
Yeah.
Like,
you do. Yeah.
And unless I can get somebody to run it for me. But I like how you said how many doors it opened for you. Like, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
It does give you more credibility.
There's that. I mean, there's also more like taxes and overhead, but it's, it's like, and it's when you're ready. You're like, okay, now True. I have this client. Now I have a good paying client. Now I have more clientele or whatever. You can't just jump into it, and then, because you don't want to set yourself up for failure. You can believe in yourself, but just make sure you kind of lay the tracks a little before you jump into it. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely been beneficial, and it's fun. It's fun to come someplace that you've created, and and it's growing. It's a living, breathing thing.
That is
true.
Come
here and goof off with this goofball every day, and yeah,
that's
fun.
Definitely fun. I told you, I drove up and I was like, wow, like I saw the sign and I'm like, that's freaking, I know it has to be so amazing to see that.
I wish it was bigger, but yeah, no, I want the whole building. When I first moved in, it was me and the guy at the end, Frank, in the security, and I was like, man, it'd be so cool to expand. And as soon as I came in, all the other units filled up, which is great. Shows the economy is doing well, but
True.
At the same time, I was like, man, in my head, it'd be so cool to slowly, okay, now we're doing even better. Let's expand to the next unit, have 2 units.
You can do that. My Taekwondo, when I was in Taekwondo as a child, they did that. They bought out half one of the buildings. I was like, wow.
Still time. Or get a bigger building.
Yes.
I would always keep this, I think, just because
There's
it's
Walmarts
so cool.
closing down everywhere, apparently.
Oh,
Empty
okay.
buildings.
There's an Earth Fair and Lucky's to move into now.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That'd be
sad.
closer to me, though.
Where do you live?
I live in Palm Bay.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was like a little half-an-hour drive over here. That's not so bad.
Not so bad.
It's Rockledge, though. It's not so bad.
Yeah,
but also,
off
Melbourne is not
95.
that big.
Melbourne's pretty big, if you ask me. I think Melbourne's big anyway.
I mean,
Because well, I consider Vieira kind of Melbourne because it wasn't always Vieira, so then that was always kind of Melbourne to me.
But it just mean like, I guess because I came from Orlando, so like 20 minutes to get
oh,
to the
yeah,
next
sure,
city. You're like
sure,
three
sure.
cities over. What?
No,
so
yeah,
20
yeah.
minutes.
I mean, especially when you're on 95, yeah, you're just cutting through it all. But if you drive on Wickham, then you're like, this is Melbourne is so big.
That is true. And then I get to see everything because we lived off of Wickham at one point. So it's
Okay.
like, driving up there, it's great. But yeah, so how, I know you said you were in film school?
Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore. The one I went to, it was
It's
like
imaginary.
It was weird. Like it was called Everest. It was a really small one, Everest University. Well, it was Florida Metropolitan was bought out by Everest, and then Everest is where I finished my degree in.
That's the one where they had the commercials at night, right?
Maybe, probably.
Josh's cosign.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I remember that school. Wow,
I mean,
that feels
it's
like so long ago.
It's like a DeVry, you know, it's not a big
mix.
thing. Yeah, but you know, it doesn't matter. It's like what you I don't know anybody else actually that was in my film class that got a job afterwards. Like they're all digging ditches and working at Applebee's or whatever. Like, yeah, I mean, so
putting all that money into it.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I mean, and they're like, "Oh, how'd you do it?" And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I
Give
just
them
did
this
it.
podcast.
But you don't say no. You also don't say no. Like the bad thing is I never said no. I mean, it's a good and bad thing. But when somebody at a company is like, "Hey, can you do this?" Because you know, I created value for myself. So when the company I worked for started like furloughing hours and they made people work part-time, I was the only one that got to still work full-time because I did everything. I learned everything at the company, so I could do everything. So people were pissed off at me, but that's who I am. You know, I'm the guy who's like, let me learn everything. And so for better or worse, that's who I am. I mean, it can be a nightmare sometimes, and I joke around like, oh, why do I, you know, put myself
Why
through
am
this?
everybody in the company?
Yeah, why do I make myself this person? But that's who I was. That's who I wanted to be. And I mean, people pleasers, you know.
Tell me about it.
Bad.
How do you continue to keep learning? Like you went to that school. I know you said the other job. Like I had a job that helped me with things like that. Just threw me in the same way, and I learned so much of the things that I do now. How do you keep further your learning? Like what steps, what books do you take? What media?
A lot of it's just on the job training, and we do a lot of video editing, and it's mostly learning through business and then trying to just stay creative and keep pushing the envelope and not getting comfortable in a certain way and knowing that things are changing, you know, and you have to kind of change with it. Like at Boeing, I do contract work. I don't know if I can say that. For one company I work for, they I saw
that on one of your bios.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I work for. It's not the company, it's me. I contract with them. So the company isn't a vendor of them. It's me that I do contract work for them. But they have a thing where they, what was I going to say now? They understand that things are always changing and evolving, and so we have these like $10,000 cameras, and nobody uses them anymore. Everybody's using your phone to make social media videos, and so instead of like, you know, pushing against that, like Boeing embraced it, and we enlist people now to make videos, and then we edit them together. So I do a lot of editing of videos that have been shot on iPhones and Androids and stuff, and they use it for marketing videos because you have to realize today's day and age, kids record these videos with earbuds in a dimly lit room, and as long as the audio's decent, like you can make something. So like that's something to be aware of, you know. It's like you can make marketing content without being great, and we understand that. So as a video production company, you're like, oh shit, but there's still a need for us, because you can't hire somebody with a phone to record your keynote speaker or your TED talk or something, you know. There's a corporate need at a level, but for the most part, it's you could still, I mean, when people are like, oh, that's too expensive, like, yeah, I get it. You go have someone else do it. Like, I understand. I'm not gonna bring myself down.
Love it.
And that's where it comes to, do you want to be the Walmart of businesses and have everybody come to you, or do you want to be like the Four Seasons, where you're like, we're 5-star company. We're doing this high-end stuff. You can't afford it. I understand. Like I was on the phone with someone yesterday. I'm like, yeah, I get it. I'm sorry, I can't help you. I'm like, but you know, you can find people straight out of film school. They're hungry. They need to build a portfolio. Wedding videographers that work out of their home. They don't have any overhead like I do. Like they can do it, you know, but we're not like and that's one of those things. Like I think, who said that? Steve Jobs. He said, it's not what Apple said yes to that made us successful. It's what we said no to. So learning to say no, and again, not being a yes man to everything, you know, like a people pleaser. That was a big lesson. And I'm still learning that because I still say yes to too much. And then I have 10 things on my plate. And I'm like, why did I say yes?
It's not just me then. Very good.
It's not. And you know, and it's a lesson I constantly have to relearn. But
I love how you pointed out that this large, you know, big company said, oh, we're not going to fight it. We're going to keep, you know, doing both and integrate it. And people don't realize, like some people, I know I hear a lot of people go, I don't want social media, da, 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 da. And it's like, well, that's the way of the world now. Mm-hmm. You have to grow with the world, and you can grow in what you're doing, but you can't just shun it because you don't prefer it. Figure out a way to integrate it. Figure out a way, get your kids to do it, you know, hire out whatever, contract out. But that's what I think a lot of people need to learn, that whole like integration thing.
Yeah, and adapting, you know, constantly adapting. And like this was kind of, you know, making the podcast studio was just like, hey, let's try this out. They're really big in California. So I was like, well, Florida's 10 years behind California.
Of course.
Maybe we'll catch on. But, you know, yeah, it's just kind of, yeah. What's that word when you, try other things, branching out type of thing, you know, it's like just branching out and trying other things like that.
I was reading something the other day, and they talked about, I've always been told like I've got my hands in too many pots, right? So I do all these things, but I like it, and I'm high energy. So it's like, I'm going to do it anyway. And I kind of started internalizing that, like, oh no, maybe I should stop. Like I almost didn't start my podcast for that same reason. I have too much on my plate. No, let me back down. And I was reading, and it said there was another podcast person that basically he went from being this nerd podcast to like branching out with different things in different realms of nerdism. That's what it's literally called.
Nerdism.
I think it's Nerdist or Nerdist.
Nerdist.
Yeah.
Chris Hardwick? Isn't that Chris Hardwick? It was his thing, and they kicked him off, I think.
Oh, well, in the book, I don't know when this book was written, but it talks about how like he basically did the same thing. He like branched out and like put different aspects to it, or maybe it was the guy before him. But
I don't know.
But yeah, like you have to like try and branch out, because it's like, okay, that's also more work. That's also more clients. That's also more open doors, because having a podcast like opens more doors. Yeah. Having a podcast studio, even if it's not just for podcasting, you can have so many different options and things like that. And a lot of us stop and be like, oh no, that's too much on my plate. It's like, so you can make it work. You can take it little at a time.
I mean, yeah, you have to be smart about it. I mean, there's like productive, and then there's like being overwhelmed, and not, as long as you can focus and get things done, then that's what's important. But if you're like, oh, like there's so much going on, you take a nap, you know, like that's that type of thing. Like you got too much going on. Like I always said, I can do like 3 things at once really well, and after that, it gets.
You've learned your limit.
Yeah, I'm at my limit. Yeah, at that point. Yeah.
You learn your limit. It's like, okay, like I think that's what it was for me too. It's like I started my YouTube channel, and it was like I was pushing. Then I was like, oh, I want to do these other things, and I kept branching on, and I do it to myself. I go, like, yeah. But I can actually do it. It's just like. Oh,
but it is overwhelming.
It is overwhelming.
But then when you're done, you're like, oh, I got to take on some more stuff now.
Lies.
Like, I gotta do more.
Exactly. That's me. I'm, mom. I don't know if dads have this, but like, or guys in general. But as a mom, like we're always like, oh, we could do 100 things, and it still wasn't a productive day.
Yeah. No, that's how I am in general. Like I'll go home and I start cleaning and doing
I didn't do anything
stuff
today.
Yeah, I'm just one of those guys. Yeah.
Maybe it's a high energy person thing.
Yeah, energy. Yeah, and I don't need an energy drink, but I like the taste of them.
Also, me, I didn't have coffee this morning.
Oh, we should have. We didn't brew any coffee.
Terrible.
Josh.
Terrible host. Terrible. I came here.
We waste so much coffee on people because we always brew it and nobody drinks it.
Keurig. Get a Keurig. Don't waste the pot.
Listen, okay. I'm here to tell you how things are done. I'm just kidding.
First of all, I'm telling you from a mom perspective. I'm kidding.
No, you're right. Keurig would be a great idea.
I do the same thing to everybody on my podcast. I'm like, but did you try this yet? I'm going to teach you at least one thing on this podcast.
Good. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I need a Keurig here.
Or I'll just come over and drink. They didn't drink. I'm coming. I've got the pot for you. No.
I'm on my way.
I drink about 20, 30 ounces of coffee a day anyway.
We can make you a pot before you leave. So, well, not a whole pot, but we'll make you some to take.
I will.
Yes.
That is acceptable then. No,
Agreed.
I'm running like, my kids are great. They made us breakfast this morning, and I had orange juice. And usually I don't eat.
How old are your kids?
10 and 4.
Okay, I think you had 3.
Oh God, no!
You have a third kid in some of your posts.
Oh,
though.
that's my niece. Oh, she just looks like us. Yeah, that's my niece. But they made me the food, and I was like, wow, I get to leave the house. I ate today.
Our daughters got along really well at the podcast thing.
My youngest is absolutely all she would talk about. And mommy, she's 3, and I gave her a kiss on her hand, and I held her hand, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot to show them the pictures y'all sent me. Oh my God, too cute. I have to post those. But she is just like enamored because she loves babies. She's just like her sister. So she kind of like, she's like, oh, I have a baby to take care of.
That's awesome. Yeah, Evelyn loved her. That was cool. I love seeing them play together.
Yes.
It's hard to find, I don't know. I guess it's not too hard, but sometimes it's hard to find good people that she can play with and they get along and they're on the same level. It's not like weird or forced.
That's true too, because I was like, why aren't any of the kids playing when we first got over here? But they did really good. But yeah, she was talking about that for probably up until a couple days ago.
Oh really? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. But another question I have.
All right.
What are some ways that you promote yourself? I know you said you have the lead generation, but what are the other ways besides reviews and I guess more physical, more you having to do something versus like word of mouth and things like that?
Not much, I guess. We use social media. I mean, we don't make money off social media. We don't get new clients from social media. One of the guys I worked with once, we work with this video company out of Colorado. We're doing a job with them in San Francisco in like April. And he's like, so do you like social media? Does it pay off for you? And I'm like, well, I like the idea that if a client looks us up, they can say, okay, these guys are busy. They're like real. They're doing stuff, like they see that we're a real company. We're not like, some Johnny come lately fly by night company that might like take their money. So even if nothing else, I like that people can see that we're working. So, I mean, that's really all we do is social media. And then just pay for like Google AdWords and stuff. That's like,
beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, more marketing that way than anything.
Keywords and things like that.
Keywords, yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's important because I was thinking the same thing. There's a lot of new podcasting companies, just in general, new companies that come up, and you go on their Instagram and it's like 3 pictures and it's like, computer generated or whatever.
And it was posted in like 2019.
Yeah, like years ago. And it's like, dude, y'all are still in business? This website is still valid? And it's like, it's true. Like you should have those things. On top of it, that social media they share it. So I think that I tell everybody, they need a social media account. I know it's a lot to manage, but when it's, again, we're in this age of that's literally, you have to adapt. And it's like, if you don't want social media, it is going to hinder you a little bit. And I actually took my my niece, the third one that you see in the picture. We took her to Ferris Full Sail to a tour of the company because she likes to sing, and it was like a little mini field trip for my girls. And I was like, I wanted her to get introduced to what they had to offer. And one of the tour guide, she said, I think she called it media communications was the degree. And I didn't even know there was a degree for this, but she basically is a social media marketer and she can have her hands in all the pots. And I was like, that is amazing. And she explained to her, which when she broke it down, she's like, there's companies out there that don't want to do social media. That is one way for them to adapt is like, hey, hire somebody that knows what they're doing. Some young kid
that knows,
that knows what they're doing.
Has a finger on the pulse.
Exactly. And it's like, I feel like if you have a business, like at least most of these big businesses are doing that regardless because who can really,
I have trouble. I'm about to source out to my kids.
Yeah, that's a
Take
good
this.
idea, yeah.
Take this picture.
Which I
Post
want to
it.
say, do you already do that?
I
Because I
do.
feel like there's a lot of low angle shots.
I do.
I'm like,
well,
feel like-
actually,
I think
because
her kid took that one.
well, this has a
Oh, okay,
3-foot
maybe it's just-
tripod.
okay.
But yeah, she does take some of my pictures.
Well, there's no shame in that. I was just wondering.
no, yeah, exactly. And it's like
Use your crew. You get that's your crew.
exactly. And they have their own Instagram that I that I set up for them. And I'm about to give her my old phone, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna send her all the old pictures. You're gonna have to post them. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't want to have to deal with
it.
all these, but I want
I
them
tell
to
that
have
to Evelyn. I'm like, someday we're gonna get you out of school. You're gonna be working here. I'm like, learn photography, learn something. I need you.
I told my husband that. I was like, you want to quit your job?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to work for me.
Come on. I tell my wife that too. I'm like, get back into photography, and you always need a photographer. Like, there's always events, and they're like, how much for photography? And I have to find some
Yes.
photographer in Orlando, or I have some photographers I use, but
yeah,
it'd be nice to know.
keep it in the family.
Yeah, keep it in the family. Keep it easy.
That's awesome. I actually
I know her schedule. I can quote right away. I don't need to be like, let me make
guess
sure.
what your schedule is next week. This is what we're doing.
You're coming with us. Kids are going to the parents. But it would have been great because
Shut-
there's a cruise. We're filming a cruise at the beginning of March, and it's me as a videographer, and then because it's a small, like, one cabin was available, so it was like just a videographer and a photographer is all they could use. So I had to find a photographer that I wanted to sleep with because we had to share a cabin. So I was like, Tony, if you were a photographer, man, like, it would have been so much easier.
When the baby is walking,
Yeah,
back at work.
That's it. That's right. Learn photography. I'm gonna get her a camera one of these days.
Oh, that's beautiful.
There you go.
I say
Maybe
that-
I got her one for Valentine's Day. Like,
I
what's her
love
husband's
it.
name?
Andrew.
Andrew. Andrew's a good guy.
Like, you got to keep up. Like, hey, I need help. Come on, you got the skills. Let's
Yeah,
make this
come
money
on.
together. I told my husband, he's always like, he makes his jokes like, oh, I can't wait till you're big and I don't have to work, but you're gonna have to work for me.
Yeah.
Try again. You're gonna work for me.
That's right. Yeah.
know you
one less
funded the
person on the
start.
payroll, or
Exactly. And it's like, I mean, I'm probably gonna
or
spend the
another
money.
person on the payroll.
We're gonna spend the money anyway.
Yeah.
I'm
Exactly.
gonna.
And we're just gonna walk around with me.
No, he takes some of my pictures. You're gonna nope, you're working for me. And I actually spoke to a blogger that I had a podcast with. Her 16-year-old son. I was asking her the same thing. I was like, does he do things? She's like, he is basically my second photographer because she has a professional photographer, but obviously that's not always available.
Right. Yeah.
And then she has her 16-year-old
Don't
and her
pay for that all the time.
Exactly. And I was like, that's exactly what I'm doing. I want to groom my children to know that there is so many options available, because that's how my mom, did with me. She was very like, hey, what do you want to do? Let's figure out how to do it. Instead of being like, oh, is that going to really make you money?
Yeah. Right.
And that was my last
Sure.
podcast.
Try it. Yeah. Just
Like,
give it a whirl.
yeah, exactly. Because we don't realize that, especially now, I cannot say this enough. We have so much ask me a question. My phone is right here. There's no reason to be ignorant on anything. There's no reason to not try to start
Right.
things. Like, just do it. Like you said,
And you can create a job for yourself too. Like, there are jobs that are just waiting to be invented. Like, hey, there's a need. Here I am now.
Exactly.
I see cars or trucks, like, they do one thing. I'm like, that's a job? Or like, we provide tarps for trees or something weird. You're like, what?
Those
So,
are my
like,
favorite.
they do all the trees in Florida, whatever they do. But
That
it's
is my-
like something weird
And
like
it's
that.
so lucrative.
Yeah.
Because it's
you're
like,
the only one.
I didn't
now.
realize we needed that.
And now there's more, but then you're like, you created this niche. I don't know, there's always something weird that's being done. Like, I used to do video editing for this lady up in New York. Her name was Cheryl Eisen, and she's on like HGTV and stuff, and I would do these little sizzle reels for her all the time. And she created a business. She stages homes, but she stages like high-end luxury
heard of that.
homes. And like, she pretty much made this niche for herself.
styling
And now
for-
she's
yeah.
the name, she's the person. And now she's down here in Florida right now, just staging a house in West Palm Beach. And because I follow her, she follows me, but she doesn't talk to me anymore. But it's
She's too
okay.
busy staging
Yeah,
homes.
she's busy. I get it.
That's crazy, because it's like I said earlier, everything is a thing. And I forgot what I talked about in my last podcast, but I talked about, like, we sit here and we shut ourselves down, although nobody needs that. Did you try?
Yeah.
Did you ask? If you found a need for it, there's another people that would say the same.
Sure.
That realize, like, I didn't know we needed that.
Yeah, just watch Shark Tank. Oh, you probably saw the guy from
Yes!
Shark Tank,
Oh
right?
my God, I
he
loved
said his
him.
most lucrative person was socks. The guy was selling socks
Don't we already have socks?
Yeah, and that's what he said. He said, you wouldn't think this is the product that makes me the most money is this sock business.
I love that. I actually got all his books after that.
He's good. That was good.
And the FUBU thing he talked about going to the promoting. After he said what he said about promoting FUBU, giving the bouncers the T-shirts instead of the influencers and the rappers. And I thought about it and I was like, we never reach outside of the box of how to push ourselves. And I was like, that's the most interesting thing because that was before FUBU was, I don't even think I was in
FUBU.
middle school.
Yeah.
I was in like middle school. Like that was like 1,000 years ago. And it's like.
Early 90s.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like he went and did something that no one else, I've never seen anybody else think that direction. And now we're talking about micro influencers and that's how we put it. He did it before it was even a thing.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Like, what? Like, who even thought of that? Like, where did you even, out of your mind? I was like, I have to read every single book he wrote. Every single book.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many ways to skin a cat, It's like, if you believe, and, if you believe it, you believe it's going to help somebody or get your name out there, just do it.
That's where I am at this actually, talking about it, I was actually very dormant. My husband travels a lot for work. I was dormant probably the last 6 months he was gone. And I hadn't done anything with my podcast. I hadn't done anything with YouTube. Like I've just been stagnant. And then I came here and
Did you do the last 15 episodes in 6 months or did you have it for a while and then?
I think it's been a year.
Okay.
All those were over a year and the last 2 were in the last couple of weeks.
Nice.
But it was only until I came here and I got that fire back under me and was like, this is what you like to do. And you're surrounded by other people that like to do it.
See, we'd never meet you if we didn't have the brick and mortar. So
and also
networking.
That.
Yeah.
And not even, and on top of the fact, like I came here and then like I got this opportunity to speak with you like this in my podcast. And I was like, in a professional setting at that. But it's like I got that fire back under me and I was like, I have to do this again. And I'm in that phase of kind of like find my collaborations, get my name out there more because I was doing it kind of, and now I'm like hardcore, like getting it,
awesome.
get it done. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
thank you for this.
no
thank
problem.
You for that.
Thank you. No, I mean,
we're
happy to share, we'll share everything. And this video is good for Instagram, Facebook.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. In every angle too, even when my hair is in the way.
and it is live streaming right now. So if you have any questions for Shauna, go ahead and reach out.
I would love that. I actually want to. I feel like I don't have a base yet, but I'd love to do that like Q&A like on air like that. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah, you totally can.
Speaking of just like in general different things, what do you have planned in the future, like expansion wise or in general?
Yeah, I mean there's dreams. I don't know if there's plans per se
because we just got here, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're still like got to be patient, and really it's the first 6 months or 7 months we're in right now, so or maybe I guess 7 months. I don't know. Really it's for me it's always just finding the next big fish to try and I know it's going to happen. We work with, there's a guy who rents gear from us and he's got a big company out in Las Vegas and he does like all the drones and stuff for The Bachelor, like he's a big time, does a bunch of commercial shoots and stuff. And I'm like, man, that sounds so cool. Like, I can't wait till I'm there. And he's like, well, you just got to realize when you get the bigger clients, they pay more, but it also takes more of your time. You're doing it for like a whole month or whatever. So that's kind of cool. Like, I'm like, okay, that's what we need to do. We need to find those guys. Cause then once you get in with those bigger companies, then you're in, you're in as long as you don't screw up. Yeah. So then you get more people and you get better work to show. So, I mean, this whole business, my business has always been about getting more work to show. Like when I started out, I would do stuff dirt cheap and just say like, hey, I want to show this video. So let me do it as good as I can for $500, $300, whatever, and then have something to show, get a good review also. So, I'm making a little money because I'm also learning. So I'm getting paid to learn this and learn how to maybe edit better or do whatever, or do some animation I saw on another video that inspired me and then create it. And then I can pitch it to the next person, the next big company, and be like, hey, look, I did this for them. Do you want something like this? And they're like, oh, that's great. Yeah, let's do that. So, I mean, that's a lot of what this business is finding, new videos to do. And if it seems cool, try and do it on the cheap or somewhat cheap. I don't know. Or maybe just produce something and get paid for it that's awesome and somebody else wants. And I don't know. So it's basically just trying to get better. I mean, as long as we keep getting better, then I think we're destined for good things. So.
Oh, I mean, if you've made it here in 5 years, you
Yeah,
hit the ground
yeah.
running and you keep going. I mean, I can only imagine where we're going to be from 5 years from now.
I know, it's crazy.
I know.
Hopefully, yeah, still going up.
Yes, you will be. I mean, when you have that kind of attitude, like I said earlier, like I look at a year ago, I started everything, maybe 2 years ago now, but I started everything. And, you know, I remember when YouTube gave me that first penny and I was like, wait a minute, hold on. What?
Making money from
I
this?
made money?
Yeah.
I don't care if it was a penny or a quarter of a penny. And then, you know, it builds up and the more work I put into it and actually kept up with it, you know, I built from there. And now I look back and I'm like, wow, I remember a year ago when I was down in the dumps about this or
Yeah.
I didn't think I could do it or whatever. And it's like, when you keep building the only option is up.
Right.
There's no other
Yeah.
way.
Unless you're digging tunnels, but you're still moving forward.
That part, see, still a positive spin. I like that. I can't wait where your book comes out.
That's right. On Amazon.
I need you to write a book now.
Yeah, eventually, I'm sure.
I know.
My wife wants me to write one. She's like,
Really?
you got such a crazy story. I was like, so we've kind of
Also
started,
that.
but we've never.
Really?
I haven't gotten through it yet. There's so much to do. In
You're
this world.
I mean, you have a physical. Yours is a little bit more physical. Most people, it's like, you know, punching some numbers on a thing, and they're like, "I'm overwhelmed." That's me. I'm talking about myself. It's you have an actual physical thing where it is a little bit more trying. But it's funny because she's right. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. I did not know that. I know you mentioned some things at the thing, but I was like, wow, like your spin, you're like. That's like a Tony Robbins spin on what you did. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're like, oh, I didn't like that. Oh, switch it. And it's huge.
Enough of this garbage.
Right? Like, oh, I'm just going to throw that away. I'm going to start over. Let's do this again. So it's like that would be really positive, but also how you use everything that you've learned. And you know what I mean? Like, I feel so inspired. Hearing everything. I mean, that was the point of this as well. But I feel so
I'm
inspired.
inspired. Yeah, it was good to chat with you.
Right? Like it's nice to have this banter between two people on kind of the same page. You know, I didn't even know y'all went to the same event.
Yeah, so we're definitely on the same page, entrepreneurs. Yeah.
Right? And so it's like that's exactly what I want to bring to everybody. And it's like I'm always encouraging everybody to write a book. Because low-key, I'm going to write a book. I finally figured out about what.
I was gonna say, if you're gonna encourage people to write a book,
I know,
you
right?
should have a book of your own.
I'm
Right?
gonna sit here and talk crap.
Trust me, you need to write a book.
Listen, I'm gonna read it.
Can I read yours?
See what had happened was. No, but I always encourage everybody because I've always, like I said, I've always wanted to have a podcast. I've always wanted to. Writing a book was always a thing. My mom forced me. I'm gonna act like it was like a big thing. She made me write. You know, I was homeschooled. She made me write, and she made me always like push myself with writing in general. And like I kind of grew a love for it, but like about myself, like about things that I want and I'm passionate about. Not really what is it? Fiction. So it's like I always tell people, I'm like, you have such a great story, or you have such interesting things to learn from. I would want to read that book.
Yeah.
And I know if I want to read that book, I'm a voracious reader. Is that the word for it? So
Sounds good.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
But I like to read, so it's like I'm always like, when you write a book, I'm here. I have so many pre-ordered in my head.
If you write a book, you can do the audiobook here. Come here and do the audiobook. She's like, what? Because I know I'm going to do my audiobook here.
I mean, now
Where
that
else
you
would I
mention
go?
it,
Yeah.
Now that you mention it, because I was thinking about that. They said, you know,
They're going to be like, I do have this.
Now that you mention it. No. So I'm just, do you have any more? I mean, your whole podcast was words of wisdom. Is there anything else, especially with someone starting in this space? Do you have anything that you'd like to say to them, or in general?
I mean, it's hard work. You know, there's a lot of the platitudes and like the regular, you know, things you hear over and over, but it's like 100% true. I mean, work hard. It's something you love. Make sure you love it. If you don't love it, like, then I don't think you can put the right passion into it that you need. You have to make it your own, even if it's not. And if you're working with somebody, it has to be, you know, feel like it's, you know, put yourself into it, make something about it yours. And I don't know. Yeah, just find what you love and go after it. Like, there's a bunch I could say, really. I mean, it's really, but it's don't give up and stay positive. Like the main things to me, and stay grateful. Be grateful. Like, you know, today, like, what do you have that you didn't have a year ago, or what, you know, what do you want? Pray for that. Is this? Do you have the things you prayed for a year ago, or like, you know, where are you at? And just, you know, measure your progress and just and step out of your comfort zone, right? There's so much to say. There's so much to say, but
No,
yeah,
that was all perfect.
there's
That
a
was all
lot. There's a
perfect.
lot to it.
Because all that, and you elaborated earlier on a lot of that stuff. That's perfect. Where can everybody find you? Just
1384 Heritage Acres Boulevard, Suite D, Rockledge, Florida is our office and studio. At Ant Farm Media and at AFM Podcast Studio on Instagram, Ant Farm Media Facebook, antfarmmedia.com, afmpodcaststudio.com. Yeah, wherever Anthony Hight, you can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook maybe, Instagram. It's a private Instagram, but I'll check you out, maybe accept you. I don't know. I just do that for the kids. Like I don't want weirdos. I just don't trust a lot of the internet.
don't blame
Except you. I trust you, listener and watcher. Yeah. So, and then here, if you're local, you want to come by, check out the studio, call us up, 321-541-6945. You can email us, Anthony at antfarmmedia.com or Josh at antfarmmedia.com. Talk about podcasting or video production or just to, talk about the weather, whatever. But yeah, we're here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anthony, for everything.
Shauna, thank you.
I am so much more inspired than I was yesterday.
Thanks so much for coming by. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Raising Bosses podcast. I hope you enjoyed, and please tell your friends and family. Go ahead and share this podcast on social media. If you or someone you know would like to be a part of this podcast, please email us at raisingbosses@gmail.com, or you could DM us on all our social medias, are Raising Bosses on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you and goodbye.